In this third part of the video series outlining the instructions for the Family Oral History Project, I'll be reviewing part 2 of the project, the reflection. Your task for part 2 of the project will be to write a reflection of your experience interviewing your family member. In your reflection, you will cover the following topics: a significant area, idea, discussion, experience from your interviewee's life that you find compelling to discuss, a topic or issue that connects and/or relates, loosely or closely, to a social, cultural, or socio-historical element or event that emerged in the interview. An aha moment. What did you learn or gain from completing part 1 of the project? Your reflection essay is due by the end of the day on November 9th and is worth 25 points of your overall grade for the project. Expectations are MLA style, approximately 500 words, 2 pages, not including the works cited page. Works cited page, including your interviewee's name and date of interview, and you'll see how this looks in the suggested template below. So here is a template for your reflection essay. The first paragraph could begin with an introduction of your interviewee, providing a brief word portrait of the interview, responding to the questions who, what, where, and when. Suggestions for your body paragraphs. Focus on one area, idea, discussion, experience, and so forth of your interviewee's life that you find significant and/or compelling to discuss. Get into the details of this aspect of their life. You want to capture and share a word-for-word soundbite of what they said during the interview. It can be roughly 3 sentences. This is where your recorded interview and transcription will come in handy. You can share more, but try not to share more than 6 sentences. Try breaking them up into little 1 to 2 line quotations throughout the body paragraphs. You should also share specific questions you ask by quoting them as you share things you learned about your interviewee. Towards the end of your project, discuss briefly your interest in a topic or issue that connects and/or relates, loosely or closely, to a social, cultural, or socio-historical element or event that emerged in the interview. That is, let your readers know that you would like to research something that sparked your intellectual curiosity on a relevant social or cultural area that you may not know the answer to. So for instance, when I did a family oral history project, I was interviewing my maternal grandmother, and in our interview, she discussed a moment in her childhood when her father received a letter from a group called the Black Hand when she was growing up in the 1920s in Brooklyn, New York. And the Black Hand wanted a ransom from my grandfather, and they threatened to kidnap my grandmother and her 2 sisters if they didn't get what they call this ransom, or they didn't get this money to be paid. And I thought that was really interesting. I did research into the Black Hand to find out who they were. I also did research into the time of the 1920s and found out it was during the Great Depression. The Black Hand was a mafia group that wanted to make a quick buck, and since my grandfather was working at a time when most people weren't, they threatened to kidnap my grandmother and her sisters if he didn't pay this ransom. So again, I found that aspect of her life to be incredibly interesting, and I learned a lot about history just from her telling me about that. So that's what I mean by doing some research on an area of your interviewee's life that sparks your curiosity. That's suggestions for closing. You are invited to think about what you gained or learned from completing this project, as well as any other relevant and/or personal things you wish to share related to a takeaway or an aha moment, an epiphany, a resolution, a major lesson, a teaching moment, etc. A good way to think about the closing would be to address the so what question. That is, what is the purpose of preserving your unique family oral history? Did this experience draw you and your interviewee closer? If so, in what ways? What is something to be learned from this significant work which potentially will never be shared or spoken about with anyone outside of your family ever again? Your end page will include the citation information for your interview. This page is called the Works Cited page, and the Works Cited page is a separate page and will look like this. You used a Works Cited page for your persuasive argumentative essay, and you'll also include one for this reflection essay. So that marks the end of our discussion of part 2 of the project, but please watch the next video in the series to learn about part 3. Bye for now.